From a doomed planet in a distant galaxy to a fantastic underground hideaway. From the Fortress of Solitude to the bustling city room, the Daily Planet. Look, up on the screen, it's Superman.
Way to go, Superman!
Come to me, son of Jor-El! Kneel before Zod!
Destroy Superman. First, I have fun.
Congratulations, old buddy. You're going to go down in history as the man who killed Superman.
No. Destroy Superman.
Once the news was published that the Superman sequels would finally be arriving in 4K, as you might expect, I was super excited. Though I did wonder why they didn't include Supergirl, which probably already has a 4K transfer done, as they produced a Blu-ray a few years back, and Superman Returns was left out, which was a part of the Richard Donner universe. I suppose they decided to skip it due to Bryan Singer and Kevin Spacey's involvement with the film. So Superman Returns looks like it's going to be stuck with its crappy transfer from 2006 for a bit longer. So once Warner started advertising this new collection, I was pleased with the box set design, though the covers for the separate releases looked, as you might expect, modern and generally crappy, as usual for Warners when they update their cover designs for the latest video format. In particular, Superman 3's back cover has a picture from Superman 2, with Lois's head photoshopped to look the other direction, and it's so badly done. But the biggest surprise for me was a steelbook set that retains the original posters as the covers. I thought, great, I'm having that. Though it's pricey for £130 for 5 films. If I didn't grab it though, I would regret it later, as it would sell out and fetch silly prices with second-hand sellers. But before those sets were released, Warner Bros. Had issued these new remasters, downscaled to 1080p, on iTunes to either rent or purchase, and the fans started noticing a number of errors, which I will explore throughout the review. Superman the movie is the only one available in Dolby Vision, where the sequels are in HDR10, but oddly the German release has the sequels advertised in Dolby Vision, which is not correct as it's a misprint, so there is some false advertising there. The new sets have the regular Blu-rays, but they are the old discs from 2011 just being recycled again. The standard Blu-ray for Superman the movie contains the special edition cut, though it's not advertised on the packaging. The new 4K discs all have commentaries and Dolby Atmos mixes. If you want the original audio tracks, they are available as DTS Master Audio Stereo, though Superman the movie is advertised not to contain that, but it does, which I'll explain shortly. The stereo mixes all sound compressed and sadly a bit flat, so most people will opt for the 7.1 mixes to make use of their home cinema setup. So first up, let's talk about Superman the movie. News got out that Warner Bros. Weren't happy with their transfer of Superman to 4K in 2018, which I had reviewed on my channel, and they had apparently gone back to it to do a new transfer and grade, which was great news. So fans expected for this new set that this new version would be used, but unfortunately not. This is the same 4K Blu-ray with all the picture issues intact. For example, the colour glitch during the opening credits as Christopher Reeve's name disappears, the image is unusually dark in areas, and the grain is quite excessive during the sequences on Krypton. Grain is good, it gives it detail, but many felt it was too much and more apparent than before. On the plus side, the 2018 disc had the original 70mm sound mix presented in 5.1 for the first time, but now it's missing on this reprint. What you get is a bog standard DTS stereo mix, which sounds underwhelming at best. The Dolby Atmos mix remains, which is the jazzed up track from 2001 for its special edition release on DVD. The fans are split on this, as some love it and others hate it. This surround track adds loads of modern sound effects and only belongs to the special edition cut of the film, with the added sequences such as Superman getting set on fire and shot at as he approaches Luthor's lair. This mix doesn't belong with the theatrical cut and basically needs to sod off in my opinion. A 45-year-old movie with an updated sound mix from 23 years ago, it's a weird combo and doesn't represent the movie and how it was originally presented. So make sure to keep your old 4K version of Superman the movie to keep that original sound mix. Superman 2 has in my eyes always looked a bit rough around the edges and soft on the various transfers over the years from Laserdisc to DVD and then eventually Blu-ray back in 2011. This new 4K is the best the film has ever looked, sharper and has a consistent level of grain, and the Dolby Atmos mix really makes Ken Thorne's music shine, and there is great separation in the channels with the sound effects to give a more involving use of the surround sound. But there are some issues with the music which are only minor, with warble in the score during the opening sequences. A key moment is during the montage when he saves the train. Others have pointed a couple of other key areas, but I didn't notice those issues on playback. What's strange is the HDR grading. Christopher Reeve now has this brownish/orange grade to his face throughout, and what appears some noise reduction as his face takes on a more waxy look. It's very obvious with his scenes in the Fortress of Solitude, and near the end when he returns the US flag to the White House. Lois's jacket at the Niagara Falls takes on a different colour, appearing more brownish than green, but appears fine a little later on when she tries to prove that he is Superman by jumping into the river. The old Blu-ray masters had the whites blown out, and Superman's costume took on this teal look throughout the sequels, and there was a lot of visible noise on Superman's cape with the reds. With the 4K upgrade, you're seeing a more faithful and filmic look to the picture, but Superman's costume is slightly darker, taking on a royal blue colour design. But overall I'm pretty pleased with how Superman 2 looks, despite a few nagging issues with its HDR and added noise reduction in areas. Back in 2006, fans finally got to see more footage of what Richard Donner shot for Superman 2. Marlon Brando was restored and the opening of the movie removed the terrorist attack at the Eiffel Tower, and it instead opened with Lois already figuring out Superman's secret identity, but gets quickly fooled by him. But in efforts to construct this new cut, CGI was added and a new ending was created to show Superman reversing time again, which was originally intended before it was changed to have this sequence end Superman the movie. This new transfer of the Donner cut is apparently taken from a 35mm copy, though I think the effects were rendered at 2K, so I'm guessing this is an upscale to 4K. The colorist has reduced the heavy use of blue and green throughout the picture. Observing the footage in the Fortress and the Daily Planet, you notice a better balance of colour that seems far more faithful to Superman the movie and even Lester's cut of Superman 2. There has also been some reframing of the aspect ratio for the sequels as well. Unfortunately, those cheap CGI effects look even worse. The flying rocket through space with the background of the stars look terrible and inconsistent in quality. The awful editing with the villains about to be unleashed from the Phantom Zone and their eventual escape doesn't look great. There is an error at the end with the flyby to camera and the aspect ratio is wrong. The image appears squished, so this needs correcting. This new cut back in 2006 clearly didn't have a large budget, and Michael Thor, who edited this, and he also worked on the special edition cut of Superman the movie, handling Superman 2 he was completely out of his depth to handle such a large project. So you end up with a movie really inconsistent in quality, especially with the new material shot to fit the narrative. It's all very clumsy. The film is basically an added special feature, as I don't view it as a proper movie. The Dolby Atmos mix sounds pretty much identical to the original Blu-ray. I've never been a fan of this mix, as it just repeats a lot of John Williams' alternative cues for Krypton. It does clumsy edits in the music, drops a lot of Ken Thorne's score, just for the sake of swapping it out for Williams' material, and results in the timing of the music being slightly off and less impactful. It's just an amateur mix that sounds messy and stuffed with modern sound effects. I will be returning to explore Superman 2 and the Donner cut in future with a new retrospective, but as it stands I don't really watch the Donner cut anymore, so I'm not too fussed about this 4K release. I'm certainly more intrigued to see the TV cut of Superman 2 make its way to Blu-ray under the Warner Archive label, if that ever happens. No matter what you think of Superman 3, it's always looked good. Fantastic photography with some great compositions with its camera setups, the colours always popped with a pastel colour design and had a natural soft look to it. Just an overall pleasant movie to look at. This is the best looking out of the set for me. The HDR grade isn't excessive, it seems nicely balanced and doesn't mess with the skin tones like in Superman 2. There doesn't appear to be any unnecessary noise reduction either. Apparently one of Warner's most experienced colorists worked on Superman 3 and 4, where a less experienced one worked on Superman 2, which may explain some of the grading issues, especially when it comes to HDR. The Atmos mix is very impressive, punchy and explosive with the action scenes, and the music isn't reduced in volume to favour the sound effects. A key moment I love is once Clark turns back into good Superman and flies off, I was wowed by the quality of the sound. Ken Thorne's score for this moment was incredible. You may notice at the chemical plant the on-set scenes there's a blue hue to the picture, which wasn't present in the previous Blu-ray, but I'm sure that bluish look was present when I saw Superman 3 in 35mm a few years back at the Prince Charles Cinema. so the colorist has maintained the integral look of the film. Some people have pointed out during the opening credits that the music cuts out and gets juddery when the blind guy grabs the road line marking machine, but I didn't experience that. So technically Superman 3 doesn't have any issues from what I've observed, so not much really to say about Superman 3 other than the fact that it looks bloody good. Now, if you've been following the forums, Facebook groups on Superman 4's remaster, and even my Twitter feed, you will notice there's a big issue with the film and its new Dolby Atmos mix. Firstly, I applaud Warner's for finally investing in a new 7.1 mix for Reeves' final outing as the Man of Steel, going back into the archive and getting all the dialogue, sound effects and music to construct a new mix, as for years it's only been available with a Dolby stereo track, nothing too flashy. The sound effects and dialogue is strong and impressive in this new remaster, but something has gone terribly wrong with the music. As soon as the film starts, you notice the sound is not the same. There are many other issues with the score throughout the film, in particular Superman and Lois flying together, Superman and Nuclear Man facing off for the first time with the music coming in too early, and the volcano sequence sounding mostly terrible, which was a massive shame as it sounds incredible on the soundtrack release. There are two theories as to what has happened here, though this is just fan speculation, so take it with a pinch of salt. Number one, when the score was recorded first in Munich, Germany, the players of the orchestra were struggling to perform the music at the right speed and couldn't keep up, so the composer Alexander Courage changed orchestras and re-recorded parts of the score in the UK, and Warners have accidentally used the weaker performances. Number two, film scores are recorded in some cases in 24 tracks, or even more. And when it came to mixing the new Atmos mix, there's been a major goof as a number of tracks have been muted, so you are missing players in the orchestra. When it was originally mixed, if there was any bum notes, it could be hidden away by the other players, and so with this new mix, whatever part of the orchestra was mixed into this new Atmos track have been muted, revealing all these errors. It's a huge embarrassment. I've never come across such a blunder with an old or new sound mix. Warner's quality checks have seemingly gone down the toilet. Superman 4 is not a great film by any stretch of the imagination. It's a guilty pleasure movie for me and many other fans of Superman, but for it to start out with what sounds like a marching school band performing the famous theme tune is unacceptable, and does not represent Alexander Courage's work. The main highlight of the film was the score, and now it's been royally screwed up. When it comes to the picture, it does look fantastic, especially when it's not a visual effects sequence. You can see glorious Milton Keynes in high detail. As you might expect, when the wobbly effects do appear, they look worse than ever thanks to the high resolution bringing out more of the detail. And seeing Nuclear Man land to meet Superman for the first time looks thunderously bad, but thankfully the colorist has colour corrected his costume for many of the FX shots, though the yellows still appear white. There has been some wire removal on all the sequels, which is a nice touch. The HDR grading is pretty nice throughout, though it does make Superman's costume a little noisy as the colours appear more saturated than normal in some areas, and Nuclear Man's orange kind of yellow flames, especially when he forms from the sun, appear more red than before. I know some were hoping for Warners to release the original cut of Superman 4 that ran to like 134 minutes for this new set, but if that ever happens it would be under their Warner Archive label. But what surprises me is that they keep using the shorter US cut when the Canon Films International cut includes 2 extra sequences with Superman saving the family from the tornado and stopping a missile in Russia. Why can't they use that? It's baffling and in traditional Warner Brothers fashion, pretty lazy. So in summary, is it worth getting this new set? Well, I would say yes, as the films do look better for the most part, a major step up over the Blu-rays, which have their own issues with their transfers. The steelbook case and their individual covers all look amazing. A lot of care and attention has gone into this packaging, but it's hard to get over the fact that Warners have made some minor errors and one massive whopper with Superman 4's audio, which apparently they are aware of, as a number of folk in the industry have alerted them to this blunder. Thankfully, Warners didn't get too carried away trying to modernise the look of these films by adding a teal effect all over them, like they did with Batman and Batman Returns when they hit 4K. These studios seem keen on revising history and changing the way movies look and sound. to update them for modern audiences, but those who buy into these films, and especially physical discs such as 4K, want their films to be presented how they were shot and exhibited when they came out, so the studios aren't doing themselves any favours by doing this. If they aren't willing to do them properly, sub-license them out to other labels to handle them. Warners have had issues in the past in regards to Superman with their DVD box set from 2006, and they had to issue replacement discs due to missing special features. Even now, labels such as Kino Lorber, Shout Factory, Arrow, and even Manga Entertainment have set up replacement disc programs to correct audio errors, aspect ratios not being correct, and even HDR grading. So for Warner Brothers to ignore this and pretend nothing is wrong with them would be a huge insult. People aren't stupid and will notice these problems. Once more fans get their hands on this, they have every right to complain, because they have parted with a lot of money and haven't been given a product of the high quality they come to expect from a big label such as Warner Brothers. So I hope Warners are listening and go back and sort out these issues and offer customers replacement discs. This may be the last time the Superman films come to a physical format. I can't imagine people in a few years' time jumping onto 8K Blu-ray. I think everyone will just give up and go to streaming. So efforts to maintain these movies and how they should be presented is very important, and Warners need to understand that and correct these mistakes, so the fans are given the films they cherish so much. The Superman series is a big part of cinema history and has influenced modern superhero films to this day, and the Christopher Reeve films clearly still make a lot of money for the studio, so it's in their interest to do the right thing, as these films need to be preserved properly for future generations. If you enjoyed the video, don't forget to hit the like button and click the bell to be notified of my latest retrospectives and reviews. Big thanks to my patrons for supporting the channel. If you want to get involved and gain early access to my content and exclusive videos, then follow the link below.